In this demo, what we're going to look at is downloading a model from the internet and then adding it into our scene. So there's a few steps to this. Some of them are optional. So I'll go over them and I'll try to mention which things are optional versus necessary. If you have your own models, like if you make models in your 3D design class or just for fun, this is the same process, except you would just start with your own model rather than downloading a model. So I'm going to download a model. I'm going to go to Turbo Squid. You guys maybe have heard of Turbo Squid before. It's just like a pretty popular 3D model website. And we can find free 3D models here. There's lots of other places where you could do this. There's Google Warehouse. There's Open Game Art. There's probably stuff on itch.io. So you can find this stuff anywhere. You want to just double check the license and make sure that it's intended to be used. But what we're going to do is just find an item for our player to collect in the game. So I'm going to search for an apple. And I'm going to set the price to free and click apply. And let's see, let's find something that looks cool. So this juice bottle is kind of cool. One is an Apple iPhone, but you can see right here, this isn't free, so I don't know why it's still showing it to us, because it says it's $39. So that's weird, but anyway, most of them are free. There's like an icon. That's not really what we want. But this juice bottle looks pretty good, and most of the rest of this stuff is Apple products. Oh, there's a nice little low poly fruit pack. But let's go with this juice box or juice bottle just because it's a little simpler, and it's got a few textures, so we'll be able to talk about that as well. And notice it mentions here that it was made in Blender. So that's good to know. If you guys are not familiar with Blender, it's just a 3D modeling program. It's a free open source 3D modeling program. And it's one that I am most familiar with, so you might be familiar with Cinema 4D. It's pretty much the same thing, but Cinema 4D obviously is a proprietary program that you have to have a license for and stuff like that. Anyway, let's take a look at this model. So I'm going to click on this. And so we can preview some renders, and we can kind of decide, oh, it's not even apple juice, it's mango juice. That's kind of funny, but anyway, we've got our mango juice bottle. So that looks pretty cool, and we can kind of see what it looks like and see a description, and we can see hopefully a license somewhere. It says standard license. So it says royalty free, so that's fine. And so if we want to download this model, we can click on the download button, and then we're going to have to log in to Turbo Squid to do that. And it looks like my password is not working. Let me just look up my password real quick on my phone. Sorry about that. I think I might have. I reset this password, so maybe I didn't update my my saved passwords when I did it correctly. Anyway, let's just check. So I'm gonna double check. So you have to make an account to be able to download from Turbo Squid. If you don't want to do that, there's other services like Open Game Art and stuff where you don't have to do that. But for most of the services these days, you have to at least have an account to download. I'm hoping this is my correct password. Okay. I feel like I just made this password. I don't know why it's giving me this issue. N6, oh sorry, DBN plus RMXSP. Okay, there we go. All right. So when you download, it'll take you to this like checkout page. So if you're buying a model, you would do that here as well. But one of the nice things about this page is it kind of shows you the different versions of the model. So one version is the .blend file. This is like the actual original Blender file. And this could be useful if you think that you're going to have to make changes to the model. Of course, you can import any model type into Blender to make changes. But if you want to just go ahead and open it right up in Blender and make changes to it and then export it, you can just download the Blender model. The other model types are exported types. So you can think of the Blender or the .blend file as sort of like your Photoshop PSD with like the layers and edits and stuff. Versus all the other types are like exported models. So it's just the information that is needed to render the model in the game engine or 3D animation or whatever you use it for. So FBX is a good model type to use. You can also see the size of the model. GLB is kind of like the most common format used for games these days. So GLB is a good one to use. It's got everything packaged together, so that's why the file size is really large, because it has all the textures packaged into the model. Maya is actually another 3D editor like Cinema or Blender. OBJ is also a good model type to use. And then you can also see the textures as well. So you can see the textures are about 4 megabytes. So that explains why the GLB model is so large. So I'll typically use the GLB model unless it's like really big. If it's over like 10 megabytes, then you might want to not use it, or you might want to see if there's ways that you can make it smaller. And so we'll talk about that as well. So I'm going to download the GLB model, and I'm also going to download the blend file just as an example. So I'm not going to download OBJ. If your model only has OBJ and nothing else, you can download OBJ, that's fine. Sometimes if you find a model, it might not have all of the same files. So if you want to download OBJ, that'll work perfectly fine as well. So once I download that, it's going to be in my downloads folder. So you can see the blend file here, and then the GLB file here. So I'm going to start by importing the GLB file, and then if we want to make changes, we might go back and use the blend file. So in my game project, I'm going to make a new folder for models. So I'm going to go to my game project folder and go to new folder and just call this models. So all of my 3D models will go in there. And then I'm just going to drag this downloaded GLB file into this models folder. You can also copy and paste if you prefer, or if you want to drag this over here like that, you can do that. And so now when I go back to Godot, you're going to see this importing assets. And so depending on how big the model is, it may take a minute. It shouldn't really take too long, but it's going to make a few files. So it's going to kind of unpack that GLB file. So now if we look at our models folder, you'll see there's actually new files in here. So Blender, when it gets like a model with a material, it actually is going to take out all the parts of the file and make its own version of it that's optimized. If you're in the Finder, I just went over this, so I'm just going to look at your computer. So make a models folder first. Do you know how to make a folder? And then drag the download. Okay, if you have any issues with importing, we'll have to debug it later because there's lots of different file types and there could be multiple different issues. So Godot's going to make your model into a little scene, and it's going to give you some options for how to import it. So if I click on this, it gives me all these options. It says, you know, how do I want to scale it? How do I want to do all this stuff? And then if I want to change anything, I can re-import it. So that's going to be useful if we want to make some changes. If I right click on this and go to show in file manager or just like return to my project, you're also going to see that all of the images that are part of the material have been broken out into separate images in Blender. So I can actually make changes to these images to change the model. And one of the things we'll notice is these images are really large. So this image is 496 by 496, and it's 1.3 megabytes. And this is just the normals. So this image looks kind of weird, but I'll show you where this goes in a moment. This image determines how light interacts with the model. A lot of these images are used for different aspects of how the material works. So this is a roughness map. And so this makes certain parts of the model more shiny, like the bottle parts, and some parts less shiny, like the label is probably less shiny. So you can edit these. You could like scale these down if you want to save some memory. I'm not going to worry about that right now, but I'm just talking about sort of, you know, why there's all these new images here. But now we can add our bottle into our scene. So I can drag it into the scene and it'll show up right here. And it's very small. So that's the first thing that I notice when I add it in here is that it's a very small model. So let's put it right there and let's see if we can scale it up. So remember, we can scale the transform here, but we want to avoid scaling in Godot. What we can do instead is re-import the model, and we can change the root scale. So I'm going to try scaling it up by 5 and then re-import. And now it's bigger. So this way we only have to scale it once, and Godot makes a new copy of it that's scaled up. So rather than scaling a model, which is very processor intensive every frame of my game, I can just scale up the original model. So remember, don't scale in the transform here. You can re-import the model by double clicking, and then you can apply a new root scale. There's a bunch of other stuff you can do in here, but that's the main thing that we want to look at. All right, so let's run our scene, and hopefully we'll be able to see the model. All right, takes a second to load. Okay, there's our model, and it looks pretty good. This model has a lot more information, like the rough map and the normal map, so it kind of interacts with light a little bit differently than the other objects in our scene. You can see it has like a shiny edge for the metal top, and it's a little translucent with the sort of glass part of the model. But it's looking pretty good. It's a decent size for, you know, the size of the player. And for now, we're just going to leave it alone. But in next week, we'll add a script that allows us to collect an object. And so we'll be able to collect our mango juice object when we want to do that. So that's the basic setup. If you want to make changes to a model that you've downloaded, you cannot do it in Godot. So I can't like go in, I can scale the model, but I can't make changes like to the materials or the textures or other things like that. If you want to do that, you can do it in another 3D modeling program. So just to quickly, we're not actually going to do this because we don't have time to learn a lot of 3D modeling stuff. But if you already know a little bit of 3D modeling, if you know Blender, you can open up the blend file and you can make edits there. So I'll just show you what that looks like real quick. And then you can also, even if it doesn't have a blend file, you can import the GLB pretty easily. This is taking there we go. Okay. So it's pretty small in Blender too, which is kind of interesting. Okay, there it is. And it looks like the materials are broken. So I think you would have to download. So I think if you see something like that, like there's no materials and it's supposed to have materials, I'd have to download this material and texture to get that to work. But let's show how to import real quick. So let's imagine that I didn't have a blend file. All I had was a OBJ or GLB or FBX. I could open Blender, and if you've never used Blender before, it's not the easiest program to use, but I use it a lot, so I can help you walk through it. But if you just want to make some changes, I would open Blender, make a new file, just delete everything in the main scene, so you can select everything and hit X and then delete, and then go to File and Import, and then you're gonna have to import the file type. So it could be OBJ, could be USD. In this case, we're looking for GLB. So I'm gonna click on GLB, go to Downloads, or actually no, this is in my project now. I'll go to Models and I'll import this. And it's very small again, but this time the materials should work because it's a GLB. Yeah, so you can see the materials work on this one. And so if I wanted to make a change, like I could scale this up or like, you know, do something weird with it. Once I'm ready, obviously I need to get it into a format that Godot understands, so I have to export it. So if I make some changes, I would go to File, Export, and then I'd probably export as GLB is the simplest one to do because it packages everything together. But you could also do OBJ. You could do something else if you want. FBX is another one, but I would choose GLB and then go back to my models folder. And then I could overwrite it by just choosing the same name, or I could change the name here. I could say this is Juice Bottle Stretched. And then I want to set this to GLB, leave everything else the same, and click Export. And now we should see there's a GLB stretched. I don't actually want to import this because it's just going to add a lot to my project, so I'm just going to delete this. But those are the basic steps you would use. And if there's anything in particular that you want to import, or if you're having issues with any of your models, let me know and we can go over it. All right, I'm going to stop here, and we're going to talk about a couple other things before we do our workshop time.